And we're back with a quick tutorial on Manor Lords. And first things first, we have a bandit camp we got to take care of. So we are going to hire some mercs. Down the bottom here, it tells you what place they're going to arrive in. So I've already just know where these are going to arrive. It only costs us 50 in our treasury. We're going to sign the contract. We get to keep them for 1 month. And if we double click on them, it'll show us where they are. And they are over here in this territory up in the far left. That means we can grab these and we can start heading over towards the bandit camp, which is right there in the corner. Perfect. Let's go. Oh, look, another ruler's army was sighted and a new message has arrived. We have received reports of bands of raiders roaming the nearby land. Should we track their steps, track their movements? Okay, this is a new objective. You get this issued to you, and basically once a year you're going to get attacked by raiders, or once every 2 years. This is notifying you that 365 days the raiders will arrive. Do make sure to keep track of them. That way you can know when they're going to show up. And over here, our people are still on the way. And where is this guy's army? He's brought in his army over here. He's going to send his army down to attack those bandits. We should be able to get there before him. We might sprint a little bit of the way, though. Also, we have just come into March, which means the berries are about to start growing again. So, we're going to assign one person each to these berry huts. And we're going to assign one person to the granary. In fact, I'm going to take one person out of this granary, and we're going to end up assigning them to this one. Just so long as we have 2 people in the granaries, it should be fine. But that will allow us to harvest all of the berries in this area. Now, at the same time, we're going to take this trading post over here and we're going to demolish it. We normally trade all the berries over there, but very shortly we're about to be trading in more than berries. So that's why the trading post is right here. While our mercs are taking care of that problem, what we need to do is upgrade from a small village to a medium village so that we gain an additional development point. To do that, it tells you right here. We need to get 2 burgage plots to level 2 and have 5 burgage plots level 1 or higher. So we're going to take these 2 burgage plots here. You will notice we have not upgraded these with chicken coops. And that is so that we can upgrade these and then put in additional buildings. You notice in here all of these are grayed out. The reason these are all grayed out is it requires a burgage plot level 2. We're going to need these at level 2 because we're going to be building some stuff in them. These guys over here, we're just using them to build chicken coops because, well, chicken coops give us food and food is valuable. So everything else but the middle 2 get turned into chicken coops. And as a slight variation of what I normally do, I have not upgraded these 2 burgage plots to expand the living space. Namely because I want to get in more chicken coops, and those orchards are not going to be very valuable for the first few years anyway, so not having 2 people there immediately is not a big deal. Oh, and how are these veggies looking? They are still installing them. It will probably be the end of the 2nd year before they're finished installing all of the veggies. It takes a long time. These are very large plots. Our first berry generation has occurred, and the teams are on it. As well as that, we've installed herb gardens here, so we should start getting herbs out of them this year as well, which will cut down on sickness. Sickness will decrease your workforce. It knocks people out for a while and they're unable to work. Having herbs just helps even that out, and since it's almost free by putting them into your forager huts, it's a no-brainer once you have the goal to do it. We have also processed all our clay, so we're going to take that colonist out of there and put them in here to start removing more of it. We already have 45 roof tiles, which we're going to be using in a short while. Having this many mercenaries is going to make the second fight a lot easier, and we definitely have gotten there before the other baron. You guys can charge in. We've put these guys on stand their ground because they're mercenary or they're spearmen, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. Hey, you guys sprint. This should be a quick victory. One thing you can do, especially on the harder difficulties, is you can avoid fighting these. If you fight them, you do gain influence, which is useful, but you can avoid fighting them. Let the baron fight them, and then you can sneak in the back and grab the bandit camp. So long as you're able to avoid aggroing them and getting the bandit camp for yourself, you gain the benefits of the resources without having to do any of the fighting. Again, for claiming this bandit camp, send it to your treasury. That means we gained 105, but we spent 50 on the mercs, so we still gained 55 treasury despite doing effectively nothing. Disband the units. You don't want to keep them more than a month, otherwise you're going to have to pay a second fee for them, and that's not worth it. Our settlement level has increased, which has given us an additional development point. All we had to do is get 2 burgage plots up to level 2. Everyone should be super happy right about now, except for clothing. We're still working on that one. Don't really care too much. These are going to require additional clothing now. Don't worry about that just yet. You're going to take that additional development point and put it straight into charcoal burning. I would like to stress, this is playing on the safest way possible, so you're doing this to make sure that, no matter what resources you have on your tile, you can still use this method. If you had, say, iron on your tile or iron, salt, or clay, like rich deposits of them, you're probably going to go that way anyway, but charcoal is one of the best early game money spinners. Charcoal is located under the charcoal kiln in the very first line under gathering, and we're going to place this right across the road from the large storehouse that has been set to store all our firewood. Now that berries are coming in, we want to make a little bit of adjustment to our trading. When it comes to berries, we would like to keep 250. Reason being, this year we're going to have a lot more population. However, we will be bringing in more food, so this shouldn't be an issue. So 120 berries in the first year, 250 in the second, and 360 berries in the third year, and then you leave it at that. 360 berries should be more than enough to get you through from there to the end of the game. One slightly sneaky thing I did here is I only left one house free, so that all of these would end up getting filled. Now that they're filled, I'm going to upgrade these to expand the living space. Reason being is I just wanted to make sure we had more chicken coops so we have more food coming in, which spreads the load. Namely because we've only got berries and eggs so far, and it'll be a while before those vegetables and those apples come in. Once the charcoal kiln is up and running, we're going to take the 2 people out of firewood, and we're going to dedicate them to charcoal. Now, what they will do is they will take all of the firewood that is around on the map, which is currently 259, and they will burn it 10 at a time in the charcoal kiln, which will produce 20 charcoal for every 10 firewood put in. This charcoal is incredibly valuable and incredibly fast to make, and very efficient. This charcoal is now getting shifted over there, and what we're going to do is we are going to change it so that we're only allowed to put charcoal into our marketplaces. Actually, we're going to do it in both of them simultaneously. We're going to go to this marketplace, and we are going to disable firewood. And we're going to go to this marketplace, and you'll notice that fuel at the moment is 100% provided by firewood. We're going to disable that as well. And then what will happen is all the firewood from over here will get kicked out. We'll have a sudden drought of fuel for everyone, but then all of that fuel will quickly be replaced with the charcoal. The fact that we can turn 1 firewood into 2 charcoal is incredibly powerful for now, and it's going to become more powerful in a second once we get into trading. While we wait for our charcoal levels to build up, we're going to expand our housing out. 3 over here. Do notice that we're staying entirely on top of the berries. We haven't lost a single berry so far. There is a development point you can spend on in here on forest management. Doubles capacity of all wild berries. Please note the wording, capacity. That's it. Doesn't double the growth. It just means that instead of having a max of 64, it'll have a max of 128. That helps you not at all if you're able to pull them out fast enough. This is only useful for you if you can't get enough people there in time. I would heavily advise against even ever investing in that development point. To gain our next development point, we're going to need to get 5 level 2 burgage plots. That's actually pretty handy. We are going to upgrade the 2 vegetable ones first. Once you get these up to level 3, 2 more families will be able to move in, which means processing these is much handier. That's why we've made these so large. Once any house is upgraded to level 3, it doubles its capacity of people, or doubles capacity of families, which means these will be able to work at full efficiency. You will not get full efficiency out of these until you get them to level 3. The third one can be this burgage plot. This also makes it faster to harvest these apples, though, yeah, leave these on the long finger because you can worry about these a little bit later. And there it is, next settlement level attained. For that, we're going to be going into trade logistics. Basically, because we want the most resistant start possible, we have to go for better deals. This allows us to buy any gaps in our economy. Trade logistics is on the way to that, and it halves the cost of all trade routes. It's actually quite useful for us as well. Once you get over 150 charcoal, do bear in mind to make sure this is nice and fast. Make sure you pull everyone out of your woodcutters. Otherwise, what will happen is your charcoal people will start wandering all the way over to your woodcutter's lodge to get wood. So what I like to do is also in batches. Make them harvest a bunch of wood, stop harvesting the firewood, then make a bunch of charcoal, at least at the start, until you've got your money flowing. Now what we want to do is go into the trade post. We already have 2 horses assigned out here. We're going to go under trade. Berries are already set up. We actually haven't hit the berry account yet, but we want to go under crafting materials and fuel. Scroll all the way to the bottom and you're going to find charcoal. This will normally cost you 50 gold. However, if you have already bought another trade route, it will be more expensive. If you have bought berries, it will also be more expensive. And if you haven't got the development point, it will also be more expensive. However, we are going to buy a trade route here. Please note that the leather and the iron parts cost 30 and 27 respectively. So when we buy this trade route, these double in price to 60 and 54. Every time you buy a trade route, the next trade route is more expensive. You can't trade charcoal without a trade route. Some of the higher, more expensive items are locked behind trade routes to prevent you from abusing them early on. As well as that, when you buy a trade route, what will happen is a dedicated trader will appear on the edge of the map and come in periodically to buy goods from you. Makes it easier to sell that stuff. We are going to set this to 100. We're going to keep 100 charcoal around for ourselves. The rest of the charcoal we're going to sell on the market. Now, under people, I think I want to put in a lot of people into this. Just let me tweak our numbers a little bit on storehouses and things. We have currently 18 people assigned. That's a bit high. It took a couple of people out of hunting. I had that going for too long anyway. Also, once this has been processed, we will be taking them out of hides. Normally, you pulse on this. You put in one person to hunting. Once they've hunted them down to 10, you transfer them over to the tanner and repeat. For a richer deposit, you're going to have to put, well, 2 hunters and 1 tanner at the same time. It's a little bit more labor intensive to keep on top of it. Anyway, trading post. Give me 4 people. We really want to cram people in here because we want to get money as quickly as possible. Our clay mining pit has become exhausted. That will happen. Just demolish it. That frees up 1 labourer as well. We'll put them into grabbing stone. You sort of want to clear out these deposits and have them stored in your storehouse at some point. Please note, the reason this entire storehouse is here is so that we can process firewood, process roof tiles, store the clay and the charcoal all really close by to cut down on labour cost or the transport costs. This really greatly simplifies things. If you put this charcoal kiln miles away, you're going to take forever to process all your firewood. Next, we need to get our settlement up to a small town, just so we can get another development point. For that, we're going to need 3 burgage plots at level 3, and then, well, a total of 7 at 2 or higher. So we can just upgrade this one over here. That means all 4 of those are upgraded. These 2 are upgraded to level 2, and this one is now upgraded to level 2. Problem is, to get the level 3s, we need a tavern, and we're going to need a second clothing supply. For the second clothing supply, I'm going to use the safe method. Currently, we actually have enough leather that we could just start making boots, and we'd still have enough leather to keep everyone clothed with level 1 leather. Now, the way it works is, level 1 is provided by leather, linen, or yarn. Level 2 needs to be provided by boots, shoe, clothes, or cloaks. Clothes or cloaks are far more expensive and complicated to make. Shoes just require 1 piece of leather to be made. Unfortunately, that leather is usually what you're using as your level 1 stuff, and you don't normally have enough leather to provide for both, unless you're really slow about developing your population, which we are not. Under farming, give me a sheep farm right there. That's terrible positioning, but it is what it is. When it comes to pastures, they have a weird thing going on where the bigger the field, the less you can fit in it. I don't know what's going on at the moment. So let's just say we make a pasture that big. That can hold 31 sheep. Now, if we take the same pasture and we subdivide it, say this one here, that can hold 19. That one can hold 19. And that one can hold 20. So this pasture over here can hold more, or these 3 pastures can hold about twice as much as this pasture, which is actually slightly smaller than it. So your best bet is to make smaller pastures. Another problem you're going to face is after the sheep herders manage to grab the wool, they have a tendency to go towards the closest road. So your best bet is basically to just make lots of roads and lots of small pastures. This really drags up the efficiency, and at the same time, sheep tend to move around after they've had their wool harvested, so it's meant to make it harder for the shepherd to go back, and it drives them about the field. But if you make the fields really small, there's nowhere for them to go. This should provide us more than enough pasture space. You can go under livestock to see exactly how much pasture space you have, and that tiny little section there can hold 47 sheep, which is going to be more than sufficient for our needs. However, first we have to fill it up with sheep. So for that, we need to go under trade again, and we're going to need to build ourselves a livestock trading post. These are pretty cheap and fairly easy to make. We'll just put one right there. Ooh, that's a nice big chunk of wealth gain. We just sold 63 charcoal for 315 gold. We've just made more, well, almost as much money off the charcoal in a couple of sales as we did off all of the berries from last year. Once the sheep farm and the livestock trading post are complete, we're going to want to go into trade. We're going to select sheep. We're going to go import, and we're just going to set that to 10 to start. This is going to set you back 300 gold. One of the reasons we're selling charcoal. Then you're going to have to assign at least 1 person to this. It seems the more people you assign, the faster you can get in the sheep, but we're just going to have 10 to start because we will be able to drive down the price of the sheep once we get a development point. At the same time, we're going to go over to these burgage plots, and we're going to grab this one here, and we're going to make a slight modification to it. We're going to turn this into a cobbler's workshop. This requires 1 hammer, 6 planks, and 10 gold. The hammer is important because you haven't used your hammer so far. They're all still stored in your storehouse from the start of the game. If they got destroyed by weather, you would have to either purchase, build, or develop them in some other way. So do yourself a favor, make sure you take this in out of the weather really early on. Once the cobbler's workshop is complete, go under advanced, set a limit on shoes, and just have it to 1. We just want 1 spare pair of shoes. That means they'll keep producing shoes until everyone who needs them has them. It just minimizes the amount of leather we waste. Now we're going to have to wait until that cranks up a bit. We need to get our hands on 3 level 3 burgage plots, which means we need at least 3 pairs of boots. The last piece of the level 3 burgage plot puzzle is going to be tavern, which is ale. Now this is a little bit trickier, but very doable. First thing you're going to do is turn this into a brewery. So, to be clear, this becomes a brewery, this becomes a cobbler's workshop, and then we're going to go to the trading post. Trade is going to get us out of a lot of problems here. Go to crafting material. Find yourself malt. Go to import. We're going to set our malt import to 15. We are not going to buy a trade route. We don't need it that desperately just yet. Now, we're not going to place any people inside the tavern. In fact, we're going to upgrade that tavern. Why not? And we're going to upgrade that granary as well. We've got the resources. Our first sheep has arrived. We are going to put one sheep farmer in here. They are going to grab wool from the sheep once a month. Sheep are incredibly powerful in that each sheep provides one wool once a month outside of the winter months, which is 9 wool a year. That wool will then have to go through a weaver's. We're going to put that weaver's right about there. Perfect, right beside this large storehouse. This large storehouse will now be set to store wool, and they will also be set to store yarn. This large storehouse over here... Oh, apologies. This one will store yarn. It will not store wool. And over here, they will store wool, but not yarn. I want the yarn stored over here with all the other clothing. I want to minimize the amount of people who are wasted running food stalls, or running stalls in general. Right now, we have processed all of our firewood. So, take people out of charcoal, move them back into the woodcutter's lodge, and let them go ham on the forest. Then, as we start to, well, get up enough firewood, we'll then switch them back over to the charcoal kiln. Our first 15 malt has arrived in the trading post. That malt will either get stored in the large granary, or it will get sent over to the brewery. Then once it's in the brewery, we're going to limit it to 15 ale. Once we have 15 ale, we'll stop production. And that ale will also be stored in the large granary over there, you guessed it. Oh, it finally happened. A new family started moving in, Burgage Plot Level 1, August 16th. What happens is once you get up to 75% approval at the middle of the month, you will start getting 2 families every month. Once at the start of the month and once in the middle of the month. This is the power of getting to church as early as possible. We are 1 year, 6 months into the game and we're starting to get double families. From now on in, you want to be hitting double families every single month. Means we should probably start adding on some more housing. At the same time, every time they move in, wherever they move in, give them a chicken coop. Sort of a welcome present. Make sure that you stay on top of your food. That means you've got 250 berries. You're going to be splitting most of your consumption between eggs and berries. You're going to have a little bit of vegetables, a little bit of meat, and in September we should get in our first crop of apples. It'll be quite small. Depending on the timing, that's when we'll be putting in our Burgage Plots Level 3. Right now, the ale has flown. We now have plenty of ale on site. We've got 16 ale. So what we want to do is crank this up to 3 immediately. Actually, let me double check something. We want to make sure that we have 3 Burgage Plots Level 2 that are ready to be upgraded. And there is 3 of them right there. All 3 of those can be upgraded. They have enough foods. You may struggle a bit here on foods to get the 3rd food necessary, so it might end up being meat, it might end up being carrots, or you might end up having to buy in food if you're absolutely desperate. However, you can just wait until you get in your 2nd crop of carrots, or you can wait until September until you get your apples in. Either way, but right now, we're going to fill this place up. When it comes to getting ale in here, this is it. You see the way they're rolling that barrel? As far as I'm aware, you can't put barrels into carts. So all the barrels have to move one at a time, and each one of these counts as 1 ale. Each adult of a family, for example, this is a family here, there is 1 son, 1 husband, 1 wife. The husband consumes 1 barrel of ale every 3 months. Rather expensive. But you notice them rolling them in. This is why we want the brewery here, the large tavern there, the trading post that's bringing in the malt, and the granary all in one spot. This drastically cuts down on transport costs, otherwise you're going to end up starving your people for entertainment. And now, entertainment-wise, are you not entertained? Then, over here, capacity food, yep, they're all grand. In that case, we can upgrade these to level 3. We just need to get 3 of them up to level 3, and the reason we're picking these is it doubles the family capacity, which means these vegetable patches will have twice as many people working them. And why can't... Oh, we're missing 12 planks. That is my bad. Alright, we started upgrading that one as well. Once those 3 are upgraded, we should be able to get the final point we need. Bandit camp has been sighted. Another ruler's army has been sighted. This is very consistent. Once the bandit camp appears, the ruler summons his army. So we need to get there immediately. Let's have a quick check of the mercs. We are going to hire a couple of brigands of our own. It basically gives us 2 weak squads of brigands, which is... 2 more, or which is twice as much brigands as, well, they have. So we're going to go over there and smash them, hopefully very quickly. For this next batch, it's a Battle of the Bandits. Pretty handy, since both of them are pretty equal. You guys want to sprint a bit? We're going to have them fight each other. Of course, they're fighting in trees, which is not great. We've got 2 squads, they've got 1. Their effectiveness is basically been halved by the fact that they're surrounded. We should win this quite handily. Done. They are broken. Now, we need to go claim that camp really quick. Send the resources to the treasury. Yeah, it gets 122. Disband. We have gone into September, and since it's September, it's apple harvesting season. Right now, the apples are coming in. There will not be a huge amount of apples for the first four harvests. The fifth harvest is when it starts to really kick in. Well, fifth or sixth, depending on how early you got them completed. How are you guys doing? Oh, I upgraded this to a burgage plot level 3. I figured having a couple of extra families in here would also help out with the harvesting. I don't know if that's messing with the apple production. Yeah. Well, anyway, we have completed the objective. We have gained the necessary number of burgage plots level 3 to afford better deals. Reduce all foreign import tariffs at half by half at the trading post, effectively reducing import prices by 5. Everything costs 5 points cheaper. This means malt is 5 gold coins cheaper to import, which now makes things super cheap for us, which means we can now afford to run the brewery. As well as that, all sheep we now import cost 25 instead of 30. So we're going to up that to 50. Thank you very much. That will take a while. I forgot to mention the livestock post. They can only bring in about 1 or 2 animals a month. It really depends on how many people you assign to this, and we're still a little bit tight on numbers, but that is about to be alleviated by, well, double people every year and every month now. If you were unable to upgrade your burgage plots to level 3 earlier because you didn't have the third foodstuff, now that the apples have come in, you should have apples, eggs, and berries. The 4 staple food sources you should be aiming for are vegetables, berries, eggs, and apples. All 4 of those are, well, very rock solid. Now, the berries only happen once a year, though, which is why we're saving 260 this year, and I've already changed the numbers on that to 360 for next year. The reason it's 360 is we're going to have 4 foodstuffs. 300 food of each of the foodstuffs will provide us with enough food to support 100 population. So 3, 6, 9, 12 is 1,200 food. It takes 1,200 food to feed 100 families for 12 months. The reason for the 60 is because all foods have a spoil rate, and foods will go off over the course of the year. This really badly affects things like berries because berries you usually harvest all at one time and then they sit in the storage sheds for like 10 or 11 months. Eggs, not so much. They actually have a higher spoil rate, but because you bring them in and expend them just as you get them, what you normally end up doing is setting a limit of about, say, 100 eggs, and then anything over that you sell off. You don't need them because you're bringing in fresh ones every single month. A couple of things to note at the end of September, start of October, we managed to bring in 137 apples. You got to remember, though, these apples are not at full potential, and we only have 2 people in each of these houses. Once we double the amount of people, and these orchards have a little bit more time to develop, we'll pull in more food from them. The veggies should be... we'll see how the veggies come in. For now, though, the first thing I want to do, actually, should have done this a while ago, is I think we're going to claim a territory. Right now what happens is the bandits seem to spawn way over here, and I'd like to limit the bandit spawning area. If you claim a territory, like, say, claim this with influence, what should happen is, if we successfully claim this, no more bandits can spawn in that area, and they'll have to spawn somewhere over here, which is closer. I would like to sort of send out our militia if at all possible, but so far they're really far away. All of the bandits have spawned really far away, and you don't want to waste time and take your entire productive workforce out of the production for about 6 weeks or so. That's really generally very uncomfortable. Our labour pool is starting to expand a lot more rapidly, but at the same time you're going to be spending a lot more labour. For example, storehouse, there's 1 person. Granary, another 3 person. Then 2 more families in here. We've got 1 working the clay furnace. In fact, saw pit... I've taken 1 person out of the saw pit, and I think I am going to put them into this storehouse. And then we are going to start accepting boards, at which point we need to start putting a limiter on this. I think 200 should be sufficient. We're going to need that because we're going to start doing a big upgrade of all of the housing plots. All of these are going to have to get upgraded to level 2 in the reasonably near future, and we're going to have to be building more houses to keep on top of all of the 2 people a month. Yeah, lots of houses coming in. All right, at the same time, I think we need another logging camp person, namely because we've only got 26 timber left. That means they go down and need to start chopping down more trees, and we need to start putting in forestry stations to start reforesting the area. We will eventually chew through all of this, and it takes about 3 years for your forestry stations to kick in. So now it might not be a bad time to get around to that. What I like to do is put a forestry hut at the end of a road, along with a logging camp in a nice open area. We won't have anyone put into the logging camp, we're just putting it there for later. Then we activate the forestry hut, we put 1 person in it, come back 3 years later, and you've got a bit of a forest. You can throw someone into the logging camp and then they can start logging it down. Basically, we're just doing this for long-term sustainability, but we should be able to upgrade all our houses with the currently existing trees on the map. Not always, but usually. For the forestry hut itself, what I like to do is you don't want to give it an unlimited work area. They sometimes tend to wander very long distances. What I like to do is set it to something like that, centralized on them, about half the work area size, and let them work that area. I think we'll put another set down here in this area. Region has been successfully claimed. I've never seen the Baron actually contest a region, so now this area belongs to us. No bandits can spawn there. That means the bandits can only spawn in these 4 tiles, and we'll probably claim that one next. That will cut down the area they can spawn in and make our lives easier for dealing with bandits in the future. At this point, we are basically coasting along. We're still waiting for these to fully come online, the veggie plots, but we've got enough families at this point, about 30 or so, that we've got more than enough production to take care of most of our needs. We still are rotating people through charcoal and out again because we want to make sure we keep that as productive as possible. Though I think at this point we can hold on to a little bit more charcoal. We will up that to 150 charcoal in storage just to make sure we don't run out of fuel anytime soon. Might be embarrassing. At the same time, we've stuck extra people into livestock production or purchasing so we can get our hands on more sheep. We're currently up to 8, and we've increased our pasturage, and we're going to upgrade finally to a full 60. That's the thing, you're still scaling up at this point, and there's a few breakpoints you're going to hit. The first is with the brewery. Once we get to 100 people, or 100 families, we're going to need to have 2 breweries, so that maxed out to level 3. So this burgage over here is eventually going to become a second brewery. In fact, we will upgrade that to... Actually, we're not going to upgrade it to level 3 just now. But both of these will become breweries at level 3, meaning there'll be 4 families working at it. The way to think of it is once you've got about... actually, about this time might be it. Yeah, you know what? We'll upgrade this now. We'll get an extra family in there. That will double the production of ale. And then we'll go under commodities and we will increase the amount of malt we're bringing in. We'll up that from 15 to 30. Eventually, we'll top this out at 50 malt and 50 ale will be kept in storage at any one time. But for now, it's sort of a slow case of scaling up and assigning people out as they come in. Wood is actually going to become a bit of a bottleneck now, so we're going to put some lumber camps over here and we're going to start chopping this down a little bit more aggressively. We're doing all of this while we're waiting for these raiders. Once it hits 90 days on the raiders, we'll start preparing to meet them. Once the brewery has been upgraded, a good idea is to save your game and reload. Right now, there's still some slight bugs with buildings. If you're ever encountering any issues where things are not producing, save your game and reload it. Oh, almost missed the time frame. There's 86 days left before the raiders hit. So, we need to get some troops together. Time to go a-trading. I'm going to go into military, and what we would like to do is go down to crossbows. We would like to import them. We're going to have to buy a trade route for these. And we're going to want to purchase 36 should be sufficient to start. They cost 13 apiece. So for 468 gold, that means we can have a decent fighting force. You'll notice here that militias can go up to 36 units. The only reason this stopped at 19 is we didn't have enough spears and shields to equip them all. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Shields are pretty weak, so we'll be replacing the spearmen later on with different units. Oh, trade has gone through. We now have 36 crossbows in storage. Excellent. They should be located in either the trading post, or the large storehouse. Doesn't matter. All that matters is they do exist, so we can click this button, we can go to crossbow militia, we can add them. Now, the main benefits of crossbow militia over everything else. You only need to get him a weapon. If you want a spearman, you have to get him a shield and a spear, and also spearmen are not that great at killing stuff. But a militia, you got to get him a melee weapon and a shield. Pikemen actually, or polearms, only require one weapon, the polearm, but they're kind of weak sauce and a bit of a glass cannon. Crossbows can be left at the rear. You use your spears to tank, you use your retinue to tank, and then you have them fire over their heads. So you need to worry about armor for them, you just need to get them weapons, and they do quite decent damage. Alright, let's see. We're going to need another 36, so, we can bring in 36 more crossbows. We can afford it. And by the time this squad arrives in 72 days, we should have more than enough troops to slaughter them. There is a case to be made for purchasing the raw materials and producing the weapons. For example, you could purchase iron ore for about 8 iron. However, you then have to process that in a bloomery to turn it into an iron slab. Then you have to take that iron slab and turn it into 2 iron parts. 1 iron slab becomes 2 iron parts. Then you have to combine those iron parts with a plank inside a boiler to make the bow. This actually will dedicate whole buildings to it, and you lose access to those families or other jobs around the place. I figure it's just easier to buy them. Especially considering you do a trade-focused run, it's just easier to buy in all of your weapons, armor, all that stuff, and you don't have to build the infrastructure to support it. However, yes, we do have a massively rich iron deposit here, and we should be tapping into that, but this is a tutorial, and we're not maximizing the use of this tile. We're just showing the most easy, efficient way to build a colony, regardless of starting conditions. A bandit camp has been sighted, and a ruler's camp. Oh. Timing is awkward. In 6 days, we're going to get attacked by raiders. I think we wait the 6 days. It's going to take him so long to get to us. This army is going to have to walk through here. It won't attack us. It's going straight for these bandits. So if we just wait a little bit, we can see where the raiders are coming from, and maybe we can attack both of them or deal with both of them at the same time. I am not paying 110. Nope. That's too much treasury to pay for mercs to take care of this problem. We'll wait. Right now we have 11 spare burgage plots, so I think we're ahead of the curve. It's time to start upgrading. Now, I avoid upgrading these all to level 2 just initially because we definitely have enough money coming in. The main benefit of upgrading them to level 2, you get money. 1 regional wealth is generated per family in an upgraded house. Cost 2 lumber, 8 planks. It's a little bit wood intensive, but we can afford it. It's just you do like to have a good stockpile of houses. I'm a bit paranoid on that front because if you do miss out on having enough houses, you will miss out on that family that was supposed to move in. Alright, raiders have been spawned. They're over... Enxiao? Okay. So they're way over here. Excellent. That means we can spawn our people, move over here, and hopefully draw them in and take care of the brigands and them at the same time. And the Baron hasn't even gotten close to us. Let's grab a few squads and go take care of this mess. The timing of all this is a bit awkward. It's just coming into March, which means in mid-March those berries are going to activate. We have already assigned out a family to each one of them, and there is someone working the granary. Oh, this granary is also set to store the herbs that come out of these locations. So there's the brigands over there. There's 2 stacks of them. Let's go smash them to bits. Another downside is, this is vegetable harvesting season, so this is heavily going to gimp our vegetables this year. And we haven't even finished those. Oh well, timing is everything, I suppose. Let's go. You will get notifications that another ruler's army was sighted. This is the Baron's troops that are heading on their way over to attack that bandit camp. Don't worry about them. They won't attack you unless they've actually declared war first. And that can't happen unless you contest their... well, that comes later, let's just say. The Baron's troops passed through our lands. They're about to come out here. We're about to engage this raid. This is the raid that spawns after the first, well, second year, or once it's the second year. These guys should be targeting these spear militia. Spear militia can be put on stand your ground. Oh, I'm not liking the look of those guys. You know what? Let's move these guys in front of them. They don't seem to be... Yeah, I think they were targeting our crossbowmen. You know, sir, they still have 18 people. They should now take a second volley. Where are you guys going? You know what? It's fine. If you want to go and fight the Baron's troops, that's grand by me. Those guys have broken. In that case, we should probably go attack these guys. Those crossbowmen are not making as much of a mess as you would like. We just don't want the Baron to kill as many of these as possible, because if the Baron kills those, he will gain influence, and then he'll use that to try and claim area. We don't want him to do that. And in that case, anyway, let's get the rest of our team. Oh, they're broken over there. That's perfect. We're going to start going over for the last bandit group. Now, how your combat rolls out will differ depending on the map and how the Baron shakes out. You could end up with the enemy attacking from over here, or just like spawning really close beside you and then starting basically a knife fight. So you need to be prepared and have all of your crossbows purchased beforehand. What is it with these bandits? They want to try and run around us and go fight the other Baron guy. And now they're just getting caught in a crossfire of arrows. I mean, why? Why do you want to do this? This is just... Yep, that's not... Still, none of them have died. The weakness of arrows, it seems. Oh my god. Well then. 17. I mean, they just ran through hails of arrows and they're still alive. Come on. Get in there. Hopefully get off a blow or two. We want to get some experience out of this and hopefully gain some influence. We got 1.3k influence. We got 1.6. Alright, so I think everyone gained out of that. We'll send the retinue over here to grab the tents. You can sprint, and everyone else can sprint home. Now that we have another 1,000 influence, I think we can claim this place. We don't actually care what resources any of these places have. We're just trying to corral the bandits into a smaller and smaller area to spawn in, for now. And as per usual, this belongs to my treasury. More treasury the better. And then return everyone home. And because our soldiers were away, the berries have actually managed to max out. That's okay, that's okay. So we've lost 40 or maybe 80 berries. We'll still have more than enough to make it to the end of the year. That's our second region claimed over there. Baron has still not claimed one, though. I assume they gained enough influence from the fighting we've just done over here that they should be able to claim one. We're not even going to contest whatever claim they do, though. We want to stay as far away from combat with them for now as possible. Now that we have started upgrading all of our burgages to level 2, we're starting to run into a bit of a clothing problem. We don't have enough shoes to keep everyone happy. We're just going to make a few changes here to get everyone back on the straight and narrow. First of all, we're going to get rid of the production limit on shoes. We're going to turn all our leather into shoes. At the same time, our sheep are now up to, there's 23 of them. That means every month we gain 23 wool. That 23 wool gets fed to a weaver's workshop that turns it into yarn. That yarn gets stored over in this large storehouse, and yarn can be a substitute as a level 1 clothing item, as in we can replace all our leather requirements. Then we're just going to go over to both of these, and we are going to get rid of leather. Leather can go out of there, and actually, let's just double check this. At the moment, we have 24 leather that is assigned out to different houses. We are going to remove that 24 leather. There will be a dip in clothing satisfaction, as everyone now has almost no clothing, but that will be immediately replaced by yarn, of which we have 37. Actually, let's crank it up. Probably should get 2 people in here at this point. Considering it's gone this far in the game, and this is our entire supply of, well, yarn or clothing, we should maybe have more than 1 person in this storehouse. You can see now all of the houses have had yarn added to them instead of leather, and boots might take a few minutes. How are these people doing? You are crafting. It'll take a while to catch up with the backlog, but basically we've removed all the, well, none of the leather is now being reserved by these houses, and because that leather's been freed up, that means the cobbler is free to turn them all into as many shoes as you can possibly have. That means if you're not blessed with a rich wild animal deposit, you should easily be able to support as many families as you want, with yarn acting as the base layer and shoes acting as the secondary layer for all of the clothing requirements of everyone. The Baron has decided to claim a territory, namely this one. We would like to stop him, but honestly, it's usually not worth it. You can resolve this on the battlefield, but you will have to fight about 4 of his units, one of which will be his retinue. It's expensive, and I wouldn't advise it at this point. We can crush him later on. Right now, it might actually be a fair fight, and if there's one thing you should learn in this game is always try and avoid a fair fight. Once we unleash the cobbler, everyone is now happy. All the level 2 to level 3 houses are sitting there with yarn in one slot and boots in the other. How many boots do we have spare? We have 9 spare boots, which means we can start upgrading even more houses to burgage plots level 2, getting us 1 extra coin. It's not a huge amount of money, but every little bit helps. Oh, and the reason we're still not using double burgage plots? Chickens. Lots and lots of chickens. Everyone that moves in gets their own personal chicken coop. As your herd of sheep increases, the amount of wool you get is going to start overflowing, as in your weaver won't be able to keep up. We're going to chuck on another one there. We're up to 33 yarn. At this point, we're going to start selling the excess. It does not cost anything to export yarn. You don't even need to buy a trade route. Keep 20, sell the rest. The reason you want to keep 20 is you can't actually harvest any wool during the winter months. So during those months, you'll actually gain 6 people. So you could get away with 10, but I like to put in 20 because I'm a little bit paranoid. But if you want to chop that down as a stockpile of low as 10, knock yourself out. At some point, you're going to see this up here, requirements not met. This is basically a lack of personnel in the marketplaces, which means a lack of personnel in either your storehouses or your granaries. In these instances, you'll notice that we are slightly short on food and clothing. Well, we're going to have to put an extra person into the large storehouse, and you'll see here that this should go up a little bit. What'll happen is it'll start putting in more fuel, because one of the people assigned, one of the families here, will set up a stall, and that stall will then store the fuel. Since we have a separate large storehouse for clothing, we'll probably have to put one in there as well, just to speed this along. And, oh, you can see the fuel has already gone up by a bit. There seems to be a limit to how much stalls that each family can support. And you basically just have to keep adding more people in until the need is met, assuming you have the fuels and clothing in stock, which we definitely do. As of July 1st, we have 316 veggies in storage, 354 berries. We would prefer to have had 360 veggies, but that is fine. It's just we're not going to have enough people anyway to consume all of those so far, and we might even start selling some of those berries. One moment. We are going to export any berries above 360, any eggs above 75, any vegetables above 360, and apples above 360. There is no point stockpiling vast amounts of food, because the spoil mechanic will eventually cause you problems with that way. That actually reminds me, this granary over here has never been upgraded. Upgrading the granary reduces the food spoilage rate. So we might as well upgrade this. At the same time, there's a couple of things we would like to do with the trading post. 1, we have a decent supply of money right now, so we can afford to do the following. We would like to import clay until we have at least 15 in storage. This way we will always have access to clay tiles. The other thing we want to do is we want to find stone. That should be under construction materials. And we would like to import stone until we always have at least 30 on hand. It's easier to take care of this now before you forget about it later. And just make sure you have a decent stockpile of wealth before you do it. Then we're going to limit the clay furnace in here. We're going to limit that to 30 roof tiles. We need the roof tiles to upgrade all of these burgage plots to level 3. So just make sure you have a good stream of clay coming in to be turned into roof tiles when the time comes. Because soon enough, once all of these houses are full, it's going to be time to start upgrading all of them to level 3 so we can store twice the families. Easy way to tell is, well, once we've got about 150 people, yep, that will mean, or 150 people means there's 3 people per family. That means we've got 50 families in, and since we're aiming for 100, around that time we're going to want to start doubling down on all of these burgage plots to make them store twice as many families. Bandit camp again, ruler's army. Bandit camp should be, yeah, there it is. Where's his army? Yeah, it's way over there. I'm going to send out our squads to actually take care of this because we want as much of that influence, and we also want to gain as much of that treasury as possible. Actually, it's just coming into September, and I really would like for our apples to get in a full harvest this year. Instead, we'll just hire a couple of brigands. Why not? We could also just hire local thugs. Oh my god. Brigands for hire is easier. It's cheap, and they should spawn over here. There we are. Since they're right beside the brigand camps, this is just really quick for us. Perfect. That was a very cheap and cost-efficient way of taking out a bandit camp. That last fight gave us enough influence to claim this sector, which means all the rest of the bandits will have to spawn in here. Well, until the Baron claims that sector. Let's skip it forward a bit. It's September, and these 4 families that are all in here are going to start harvesting this area quite extensively. If you have to go on a military campaign during this month, it will affect your harvest, so just bear that in mind. That means there is 1 region left. No problems at all, and currently our population has hit 155. That means we've got about 50 families, which means it's time to install a second brewery. This has a chicken coop in it. We don't care. We'll just overwrite it. We have enough chicken coops that we are well sorted on the egg front, and we should be running out of them anytime soon. At the end of September, we have about 181 apples. Now, you got to remember, these orchards don't come into their own fully until about 5 years, 5 years of production. So we're only in year 3 at the moment, which means it's going to be at least 2 more years before they hit full capacity. That's going to be a little bit of a tight order, but we should be able to have enough food to survive until then. Well, 3 stable food sources to survive until then. There's not really much to show at this point in the game. At this point, you're pretty much dominating. You have over 50 families. We're basically deforesting all of the forestry we can find to turn it into, well, to upgrade all of these buildings to layer 2. Anytime anyone moves into a house, we immediately install a chicken coop and upgrade them. And I think at this point, we're so far ahead of the curve, we might just start installing the chicken coops and upgrading before the people even move in. We have also installed some forestry huts around the place. One there, another forestry hut over there, and another forestry hut over there. They're all set to plant in the surrounding areas, and we should hopefully have replacement trees long before we run out. This should more than handily cover us to the end of the game. We've cracked the 2,000 regional wealth mark. We're just going to add on another batch of crossbowmen. At the same time, they will get topped back up in the trading post. It'll order in another 36. We're going to want 4 squads of crossbowmen, and then we're going to have 2 squads of infantry to go with them. Our most recent batch of veggies has put us above 423 veggies. So vegetables are now fully online, and we don't have to worry about them as a food source. They're definitely going to give us the 360 we need to hit target. The trees, the orchards are the only ones that are holding us back right now. Everything else is covered. Oh, yep, there's still a little bit of bug stuff going on here. You'll notice here there's a little bit of a jam outside of our trading post. This can and will happen. I've tried to figure out ways around this, and normally when I speed up and slow down the game, sometimes unjams itself. Other times that doesn't help. What we're going to do now is basically double down on trade post. You're not supposed to make a second trade post, but it was the only way I found to stop that happening so consistently. 1 second, I'm going to have to delete this weaver's workshop. I should have put in the trade post first. Done. Once that trade post comes online, we'll have 2 trading posts, and hopefully these guys will unjam themselves. I think I'll do a quick save reload. Learn from my mistake and put your weaver's workshop tight up against your trading post, just to make sure that you can fit in a second trading post over here. At the same time, I have hired 2 horses in the background. I've been doing that for a while because I was expecting this problem to rear its head. We will immediately assign out to livestock to here, and then we're going to put in 4 people. We do have the spare personnel right about now. That might break the deadlock. We'll see. That appears to... The quick save reload seems to have broken the deadlock. Now the wagons are flowing again, and hopefully our trade will start going up. Again, we get the requirements not met, in which case we can quickly check that it's just food and clothing again. So large storehouse +1 and large storehouse +1. Around this point, when you notice that you're having to put in 8 people into your storehouses, it's time to put down a second granary. This granary is already maxed out, and you can see it's redlining a bit. So now it's time for the second granary, which will go Right there. Perfect. We'll be upgrading this shortly to a level 2 granary as well. We've passed a 2,000 treasury wealth again. That's sort of my arbitrary limit for let's buy some more crossbowmen. We actually don't have enough people to support them all. We're going to go up to 4 squads of crossbowmen. So we just keep adding them on as our money goes up and as the crossbows come in and as the people move in. Right now, we just have... Oh, we just have 1 house left to fill. And we will then have to start going to level 3s. This is the full extent of the 100-person village. Once all of these houses are full, there's only this one left, which should be filled on the 15th of February. Once that's filled on the 15th of February, we're going to start upgrading all of these to level 3s. The first one we're going to upgrade is this brewery. Once we upgrade that brewery to level 3, at that point it will have 4 families working on ale. In fact, let's just skip it forward a little bit. And there we go. That's one more house, which means this can be upgraded to a level 2. You can be upgraded to a level 3. I'm not going to upgrade the cobbler's workshop straight away because it's not worth it, to be honest. That just means you'll have 2 families working the cobbler's workshop to make boots. We've got more boots than we could ever possibly need. We actually have 79 boots in storage. I'm severely tempted to open the trading post to selling them if it wasn't for the fact that it kept getting clogged up. Right now, the secondary trading post seems to have kicked in and helped alleviate the traffic congestion. Bandit camp was sighted. Lo and behold, it is going to be right across the road from us. And considering the month that's in it, that's February, I think we can go send a quick team out to go kill them. Before we head out, requirements not met again. If we check over here, we'll see that our granary supply is redlining and food variety is actually not getting all the way out there. We definitely do have the resources. We do have 4 different foods in sufficient quantities. So it just requires us to put another worker in the granary to make that work. Same story as always, 1 squad of spearmen, 1 squad of retinue, surround and crush, destroy. It is essential to hunt down as many bandits as you can, including all the ones that attack you, so that you can deny influence to the enemy baron. This slows down his expansion and speeds yours up. We have now achieved a new development point because we have hit whatever arbitrary requirements there are, namely because we're just upgrading our houses left, right and centre, and we're not going to stop. We're going to keep upgrading all of these until every single house is level 3. Second development point obtained because we've hit the correct amount of level 3 buildings. That is the last 2 points you're going to get. Once you have topped up to 60 sheep, you can get rid of your trade station over here. Since we already have 60 sheep, we can just knock everyone out of that, deconstruct the building. We have no further use for this. There is a development point you can put into sheep breeding that will allow sheep to multiply. We don't want that. Basically, it's going to give you meat, but the only reason to ever get into meat is if you have an infinite salt deposit on your tile. Otherwise, it's just so point intensive. For example, 1 point in orchardry basically takes care of an entire foodstuff. 1 point in honey means you'll need about 8 to 10 people, but that takes care of a whole foodstuff. Meat-wise, you're going to need to get your hands on trapping and advanced skinning, and then even then you're probably only going to watch sheep breeding. So you're going to need about 3 points put into meat if you really want to take meat to the next level. That is just far too expensive, and we want to make this as easy to use as possible and as consistent as possible. During this upgrade process, the big bottleneck will be the roof tiles, which is why we already had the clay being brought in. We have 2 people working roof tiles right now. That should allow us to stay ahead of the curve. If you are desperate for roof tiles and you start to fall behind and you're not going to be able to have a house ready for people to move in, you can use the trading post to purchase in roof tiles. Probably would advise against that though because it is a bit expensive and you would have to buy a trade route. Our population has hit about 2/3 capacity, so at this point we're going to max out ale production just to make sure we don't fall behind. Malt we're going to crank up to 50, and the breweries we're also going to crank up to 50. When it comes to the tavern itself, there's currently only 1 person working there and it's set to an overstock of 4. The reason for the overstock of 4 is currently there is 46 houses, and because there's 46 houses that means there needs to be 46 ale in this at all times. You don't need to drink it all. This is just, it has to be present. And so long as there's 46 ale present, then what happens is everyone seems like they're happy. It doesn't matter whether they've drank it or not yet. It is the same when it comes to the clothing. If you look in here, you see there's 46 pieces of yarn and 46 shoes. Clothing all goes down, clothing and ale all go down on how many houses there are, not how many families there are. So say the families in those 4-person burgages over there, they're sharing a pair of boots and sharing a ball of yarn between them. Don't ask. I have no idea. Same with fuel. You only need 46 fuel in stock for everyone to look like they're happy. They still consume 1 fuel per month, but so long as there's 46 stored in the markets, they're happy. Food variety, same thing again. There needs to be 46 of all. Oh, we got 25 apples in there. Oh yes, we're still catching up on all the houses. But food-wise, this is where things can get a little bit stretchy. You start running out of apples. This can become problematic, but there are ways to mitigate that. Either A, you purchase it because you have a lot of money and you can buy in food, in which case I would recommend you buy in bread. Or, well, wheat. Either buy in wheat, grind it up and turn it into bread, because one wheat, which costs 7, will turn into 2 bread. It's just a handy way to tide you over until the apples fully kick in at year 5/6. The other option is what we're about to do now, because, well, the amount of people we've got is starting to get a bit out of control. Hold on while I just filled in a few of these first. So now, since we have lots and lots of excess population, we're going to go into development and choose beekeeping. This is the last point we're going to need. The 6th point you can use for whatever you like. However, there are ways around not having to get beekeeping if you don't want. We'll cover that later, but for now, this here is the apiary. It says every region can sustain up to 2 apiaries by default. Placing more will not increase yields. That is a lie. That is not true. This has been tested multiple times. Don't worry about it. All we're going to do is we're going to put in one there. Do you want to turn around a bit? 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's 8 more apiaries there. Combined with the original 8, that's 16 apiaries. We have 11 unassigned families. I'm sure they can get around to that really quickly. All it costs is boards. Sorry, planks. I get planks and boards confused all the time. While that's going on, another bandit camp was sighted. Oh, look, it's in the territory across from us. Ruler has summoned an army. We'll send over some troops to take care of that in a second. A team is taking care of the bandit camp, and over here we're about to do a little bit of micromanagement. If you click on a burgage plot and you go under the people section, it will show you what they're assigned to. Carpenter, granary worker, fire cutter, herder. All of these things are assigned. However, what we're going to do is we're going to reassign them to the apiaries. We want to reassign them to the closest thing to them, and at the same time, this has multiple benefits. First, those 4 go here, these 4 go here, and we'll replicate that on the other side. Now, the benefit of this is it only takes one person to come along and prep the apiary. Once the apiary is prepped, they can go back to doing their thing. The other members of the family are free to go harvest these apples pretty much for the entire season. What's really detrimental to the harvesting of, say, vegetables or apples will be is if the family is, say, over here working in the sheep farm or over here working in a forestry hut. They're really far away from this area, and this can really cut down on their productivity. By locking them down to this area, all of them can just bounce back and forth and quickly strip out the apples. Results in a big boost in productivity. If you do not want to go the apiary route, the second option is to put in saw pits. Basically just stick in 4 saw pits, assign them to the saw pits, and then just make sure there's a limit on production to, say, 200 boards. Then they'll barely ever get used, with basically 2 saw pits over there and 2 saw pits over there, or sorry, 4 saw pits here, 4 saw pits there. You'll have all 8 of these, or all 16 of these people assigned out, and they won't get involved in anything. However, that feels a little bit wasteful, so putting them into apiaries does generate you food. However, it does cost a development point. It really depends on what way you want to swing it. As it is, I see no reason not to spend the development point, because this build basically takes care of all your needs. Weapons, armor, in fact, oh, that reminds me, we should go back under trade, go under here, and what we want to do is start ordering mail armor. We have not touched on armor yet, but there are 2 types. Gambeson on mail. Gambeson is made out of cloth. It comes from flax. That's it. It's flax. It's a plant you plant. And that can only be worn by people that are stationed in a level 2 burgage plot. So, any people sitting in a level 2 burgage plot can wear Gambeson. However, people in a level 3 burgage plot can wear chainmail. Basically, anyone can wear chainmail, doesn't matter what type of troop they are, just so long as they're in a level 3 burgage plot. Which means we can now go in here, go into trade, and instead of... Oh, and if you want to build chainmail, you have to actually unlock basic armor making, and you have to unlock advanced armor making. That is rather expensive and costs you 2 points. Or, alternatively, just put 2 points in, get better deals, get charcoal, and then just buy all of the weapons and armor you ever want. We're going to start with importing 36 mail armor. We're going to have to establish a trade route to start it. That's going to cost us 13 a pop. Yes, that is not cheap. But bear in mind, we've been paying 13 a pop for the crossbow, so not really that huge a deal. We're also going to import helmets. Same thing, 36. And we're also going to buy a trade route for that. They're 11 a pop, slightly cheaper. Between the helmets and the mail armor, we should have some of the best troops you can possibly get. So this whole build just revolves around getting lots of people, buying all the armor and weapons you need, and then taking care of problems from there. One downside is you have to go back and find all of the people that got removed from all the different areas so that you can add them all back in again. Bit of a problem, but it's not so bad. After the full month of September, we have unfortunately only managed to achieve about 176 apples. Not great. It's going to be, what year are we on? Year 4. So we're on year 4, it'll be year 5-ish before this fully becomes productive. Right now our vegetables are coming in, and yes, we're going to have an absolutely ginormous amount of those. Before we equip our fourth set of crossbowmen with crossbows, we make sure we have 36 crossbows and then we disable the trading in them. We only want 4 squads of crossbowmen. That is it. No more are required. If you forget to do this, it's fine. It's just it saves you a few quid. Now what we do is we summon up the last squad of crossbowmen. We'll still need to wait for a few more people to show up, but once those 4 squads are filled, then we can start on our next. In fact, we could probably start on that right now. I'm going to go over here and we're going to switch this over to a joinery's workshop. This is going to allow us to make shields, and we can upgrade this cobbler's workshop as well. I believe that is every single house now upgraded to tier 3. Our crossbowmen are just about fully equipped up, so it's time to start getting militia footmen. Militia footmen are just better than spearmen in general, and since we can afford it, why not? For that, we will need to get our hands on sidearms. We will import those, same again, 36. We will have to buy a trade route for that. At the same time, we did put out a joiner's workshop, and we started producing small shields a while ago, up until a maximum of 72. In fact, we can come in here, and we are going to export our excess. Cost 150, that's fine. Anything over 36 gets exported, and you know what? Let's just make that 100 even shields in here. That means we're actually making a small profit for them, though it will take them a while to pay them off. Those shields cost 1 plank to make, and they sell for 5. Makes them actually quite a decent money spinner, though I prefer to keep the planks early on, especially considering our deforestation techniques. Oh my god. Our trees are now full-sized as far as I can tell. Yeah, it's April 5 years later, so the moment we go into this September, this is about the time we built them 5 years ago. So we should get a full crop out of them this year and hopefully get the full 360 we were anticipating. Now that our sidearms have come in, we can disband the spear militia. We don't want them anymore. And instead, we're going to go with militia footmen. Militia footmen are just better in general. Then once we get in another squad of sidearms, we'll make a second batch of militia footmen. It is currently September in year 5. We skip forward a bit there just to get to the end game content. This is year 5. Our orchards have finally grown to full size. Now, we're going to see how many apples they can rip out of this in this single month. By the end of September, we have managed to pull in 543 apples, well above the prerequisite 360 we were aiming for. I actually turned off the trading in apples just to make sure that there was no mess-ups. We'll export the excess. Downsides of this build. Well, unless you tap in honey, or unless you tap in some extra foods by buying in some grains or something along the way, you will have to wait until year 5 or September in year 5 before your apples come online fully and are able to support you. And because you're recruiting population at such an incredible clip, your orchards are not able to keep up with you. Your vegetables can keep up with you. Eggs can keep up with you. Berries will keep up with you from the very beginning, but apples are just that little bit slow. The problems with apiaries are they're incredibly worker intensive. You're going to need at least 8 workers to get this working right, and the only reason we go up to 16 in this instance is to make sure that we maximize vegetables and apples. We are at exactly 100 families. We are also 2 level 1 families because they're living inside the manor. That is kind of unfortunate. You can't upgrade those. You can't make them level 3. I don't know what we do those, so we can't even give those heavy mail or anything like that to wear. However, in 1 more month, the last 2 spaces of free space will have filled up, bringing this up to exactly 100 population of heavily armed and armoured troops. At the same time, that will not completely fill out the numbers, but if you really do want to fill out the last 2 numbers so you have exactly 36 in every squad, what you can do is come over to this last section over here, and you can put in 2 double burgage plots over here, and 2 double burgage plots over here, and upgrade them to level 3. That will give you an extra 16 troops, bringing you up to 118 families. With 118 families, you will have enough troops to fill out exactly 6 militia squads. You cannot get any more than 6 militia squads, so there's no point colonizing any other tiles unless you want to get your hands on more retinue, because you can't get any more militia than this. You've literally maxed out. You've got the heaviest armor, the heaviest weapons, the heaviest everything you want. And you don't have to go with crossbowmen. You can go with whatever weapons you want. I just think this is one of the better configs of 4 crossbows, 2 militia, and then you will most likely, when you're going after the Baron, hire a bunch of troops and use those to help you out or to meat shield for you. At the same time, once you've maxed out your population, you will want to go along to your manor, and you're going to crank up the taxes probably to about 40% or something along those lines. It will hurt, but you don't care about getting people anymore at that point. All you care about is cranking up your treasury so you can crank out more retinue and crank out more mercenaries. At the same time, if you really want to, I don't think it's necessary, you could start colonizing these sectors out here, make a tiny village, build a manor, expand the manor, and then hire 24 retinue. There is the option with any of the manors to add on a garrison tower. Garrison Tower allows you to build 12 extra retinue. Right now, I did upgrade the retinue at one point to add on the extra 6 or 7 units because we did have the treasury for it, though realistically, it's not entirely necessary. You can get by on your early spearmen and then later on militia and crossbowmen. One of the interesting things about the logistics of this game is that it's really down to the number of houses. Now, we've been using single burgage plots here, even though they upgrade to 2 at the end, because we get to put eggs in them, and eggs just takes care of one of the 4 food groups. It's very simple, easy to get down early, but if you put in double burgage plots, you're going to hurt yourself on the eggs, but you won't need as many people over here. For example, we need 46 fuel deployed in one of these common goods stalls. People don't take their fuel from there, they take their fuel from the storehouses, but we need them deployed there so that they're happy. It's basically a happiness mechanic. Each fuel stall can only support 20 items. Each of these food, fuel, whatever it is, they can only support 20 items in each one of them, and each goods stall can only be put together by X amount of families, which means once you go over the amount of stall requirements, you're going to have to put in another family that can build another stall that can store more firewood or more clothing so that they can be distributed to the housing so that the housing will be happy. Same with food. So even though all of these families are eating 100 food a month, the marketplace only needs to actually store about 200 of the 400 food required because we only have 46 houses. You'll see there's 46 berries, 46 eggs, 46 vegetables, and then a mix of honey and apples. So if you really wanted to cut down on the amount of people you're putting into the logistics section, you could put in double burgage plots. However, then you're going to need to search yourself out with an extra food type to support yourself through the early game, and I just can't find anything better than eggs. Charcoal kilns, absolutely essential in my opinion to a successful run. If you look at our all-time money generation and look at exports, it brought in almost 10 grand. Charcoal is just incredible. The next up is yarn. Yarn brought in almost 4 grand. However, we did have to import 1,500 worth of sheep, which means it realistically we only made about 2,500 out of that in total. They pay for themselves over time. It's just not quite as good as it looks with the raw numbers would suggest. Carrots, most of that kicks in late. Eggs, same. Eggs are a slow generator. Berries, yeah, like all of the others really pale in comparison to the amount of numbers you get out of there. And even these ones over here, they all sort of kick in much later. So charcoal is just absolutely essential, in my opinion, to running a trade-centric strategy like this. I did say I would cover my measurement process for measuring out so you don't end up getting stifled early on, or even later on. This is a pasture measurement device. You basically run a fence along the edge of this and it works out at 12. So this is a pasture length of 12, and roads are a width of 1, which means if we did something along the lines of... So by tacking roads on either end, we've added 1 to the 12 that's already there. So that's a 14, 12, 13, 14 from road to road. And if we go 1 beyond it to this side, that would be 15. And to the other side is 16. Wait, we'll try and get it. Yeah, there we go. So it's 16 pasture lengths long. And that's basically how you measure everything. 12 for a corpse pit, 1 for a road. You will, of course, kind of mess up a little bit here and there, but in general, it's actually quite accurate. So to measure out what we want to do, the whole build is 105 long and 105 wide and 91 long. So we're going to grab this over here, get it pretty close to the road, turn off the snap to tool, and then we want to try and line it up so it's even with that. Yeah, say about there. So that's about 105 wide. That might actually be a bit tight. Let's bring it back the other direction. Yeah, that's 105. And then what we do is we bring the field out this direction. And boom, now we have 105 measured out that way. Then you just have to line it up with your corpse pits and make sure everything's organized. And once you've lined up the corpse pit on the other end, we click on here. It's 91 long. We just want to try and make sure we get that kind of straight. And we get up to about 91. Or on the side of caution if you want. And then boom. Then we can know that if we go across this direction, we can make it about 105. And done. That means we know exactly where we're going. That's... Wait, this is supposed to be 91. Oh yeah, so it's slightly off on this side, but we can fix that. Then all you have to do is check that the containing area is able to take corpse pits. So you'll see here that corpse pits are available, but when you get up to the end here, you're going to notice that it's too steep. We don't mind if the last 2 corpse pits at the top are going to fit or not, namely because those are all going to be gardens. So they don't really care about the terrain at all. So the rest of this place was all green, which is how we're able to make it. If that didn't work, you just have to rotate it a different direction. Maybe you want to come this direction, 105 wide, 91 long. Just don't overwrite your berries. Or alternatively, you could build it this way, and then dig out whatever deposits are in your way, or you could go this direction either. There's plenty of ways to fit it in, and normally you can find the terrain to do it quite handily. If you need more influence to war with, all you have to do is go over to the manor, go into taxes, and you can crank up a tithe here on your food. You're going to have far more food than you need anyway. For anyone concerned about regional wealth, this tax percentage is not on income. It's on how much is currently in your treasury. So right now we have 3,900 in our treasury. We're about to apply a 40% land tax, and it's about to head over to the new month. We have 755 in our treasury, and bada boom, 2,400 in our treasury. If at any point you want to do that, no problems at all. You can grab yourself a load of treasury to outfit your retinue. However, this is going to hurt you a little bit on the taxation. However, there is a little trick to get rid of that. Just save the game and reload it. After the save and reload, it'll take a minute for the game to update, but it should have forgotten that you taxed them. It will keep the previous month, but a -6 taxation is much easier to manage than a -24, and you now have more than enough treasury to, well, do whatever you want. Either settle another tile, upgrade your retinue to the maximum size, do whatever you want. This can be done a lot earlier. I just left it till late because I didn't feel like it was necessary. I would like to apologise in advance for the rant I'm about to do. And it's a rant about just how illogical some of the stuff feels. I know it's early access, but I still, like, you got a rant inside you. You can't keep it in. It's too hard. All right. Over here, one forager hut with one person in it, another forager hut, one person in it, and one granary around a normal berry patch. This produces 440 berries in 3 months. That's ridiculous. That's 3 families. Even if you leave the families here all year round and forget about them the rest of the year, that's still 440 berries for 3 families. If you put one person in the hunting camp and you make sure that the tanner is working and all that, a normal patch of wild animals will produce about 4 meat a month, every month, for 12 months. Not exactly a great return on investment, if you know what I mean. Even over here, we have, say, 8 families working in these burgage plots, and then we've assigned them out to these apiaries. Between all 8 of these families, we pull in about 550 apples and, say, about 250 honey. That's actually a pretty good return on investment. It's why we've done it and built it this way. It's quite efficient. And the eggs are effectively free. They don't require labour. I believe the women go out the back at some point and they drop down some seeds occasionally, though I don't know how mandatory that is. But I've never seen them fail. The eggs have never failed to be produced because you summon away your people. If you go off to war during the harvest season for these things, that's bad. Same for the berry huts. But the eggs never seem to fail, making them also an amazing food. So, bearing in mind again, 3 people, 440 berries, even if you left them all year round. Now, follow me here. To utilise bread, you're going to have to be gifted with fertile soil, which is not a guarantee. At the same time, you will then have to put one person in a windmill to grind up the grain, and then you're going to have to put another person in the communal oven. And I know there's bakery things, but we'll get around to that in a second. So it's 2 people you've invested in here. 2, bearing in mind that 3 people can get you 440 berries a month. Farming should be incredibly efficient, no? Not really. For example, this will yield 49 grain. What about you? You will also yield about 50 grain. So we can get about 50 grain for half a morgan. To do a 1 morgan plot, which is 2 half morgans, you're probably going to want to have 2 farmers working it, just to get it done in time. And you're also going to want to have a livestock assigned so that the ploughing can get done in time. Though, honestly, the ploughing, you could probably get away. Let's say 2 people to harvest, 2 people to plant. And you can get a morgan, which is 100 grain, which will turn into 200 bread. So that means you need 2, 3, 4 people to make 200 bread. Now, of course, you can expand it out, and you can get another 2 people in this, and it's 2, 4, that's 6 people, and you can get 800 bread, which you can then sell. But again, you're going to have to invest an awful lot of people to get the same return, cover a vast area, and it's going to be dependent on where the soil is and how close it is to your village. Then you're probably going to have to put in a granary nearby, transport it. Why? Why any of this? There's no need. If you just go with the village design that we were at before, you get 5 different food sources, more than enough to run 100 people, and you never need more than 100 people because the largest militia you can have just requires about, I think it's 116 families. So there's no need to develop a second tile at all. So I'm confused. I mean, okay, I still, again, early access and all that, but right now, considering you can only make 6 militia, why would you ever go above 116 families? And why would you ever leave your starting tile when your starting tile can do everything you want, and you don't need any of the external resources? Salt for sausages, we don't care. Hell, meat? Oh my god, meat is horrifyingly bad. Oh, and yes, that brings me to, yes, you can get double grain. Yes, you can get bakeries over here. However, you will have to invest in the heavy plow and bakeries. You'd have to invest 2 points, and at which point you're still going to need to have one person in the communal oven, one person in the windmill, and then probably 2 people in a farmhouse anyway. And then you're going to make yourself, instead of getting 200 bread out of 4 people, you'll get 400 bread out of 4 people. Or, 1 point in apples, 1 point in beekeeping. I'm not saying that berries should be nerfed. I'm not saying that other stuff should be nerfed. I'm just saying that farming needs to be buffed in a lot of ways. Otherwise, it's too labor intensive for what you get out of it. Another bit of a rant. Clay. Why is it so bad? Okay, you put 1 person to clay mining, it will produce enough clay to max out an entire clay furnace. As in, 1 person in a deep mine requires 5 people working in a clay furnace to turn it all into tiles. And you can sell those tiles for a lot. Each one of them will sell for 8. The problem is the sheer labour requirements are absolutely staggering. For the cost of, say, 2 people in a charcoal kiln and 1 person out harvesting the firewood to turn into charcoal, you can make more charcoal and sell it than you could anything you do with the clay furnaces. I think charcoal might be overpowered and might need a bit of a nerf. That's the only thing I'd say would need nerfing. Everything else probably needs a bit of a buff. Otherwise, charcoal is just king at the moment. Oh, okay, this is my last rant, I swear. I'm sorry. It comes down to the militias. What will normally happen is the bandits will spawn. I'll be like, oh, I'd like to go get them, but oh no, it's March. And because it's March, this means the veggies are coming in and the forager huts are going to be active. In which case, if I'm gone for 6 weeks, this is going to really hurt my crop production. And I get it, you got to make hard choices. But what I would really like to be able to do would be able to say, take a burgage plot and say, click a button that said no military service, as in they're not allowed to be recruited to the militia. Or maybe we have, we could say, click on a burgage plot and dedicate it to a particular militia unit. So I could say, take these burgage plots here and say, you all are going to serve in this crossbow militia unit. In fact, all 4 of you would serve in this crossbow militia unit. The foragers who are working there, you could serve in a different militia unit. And then we could exclude those so that I don't recruit those when I'm going out in the field. Instead, I just take the other ones that were not involved in the harvest that season. Just, dedicated militia units. That way you could have like a whole dedicated squad of farmers or 2, a dedicated squad of orchard workers, a dedicated squad of apiary workers or something along those lines. That way you know what people are being pulled off the farms, so you're not randomly pulling people. So right now, there's 8 crossbowmen there, 8 crossbowmen there. Which unit are they in? I have no idea. And this one here also has 1 unit of militia in there. Frustrating. But I get it. Again, early access, things will get polished. But as it is, I can see no reason not to build like this. This is just incredibly efficient. It gets you exactly to the amount of families in the militia you want. There's no point taking, anything. Even with iron available, we didn't need it because it was just cheaper and faster to buy all of our weapons. So yes, again, I don't know what the design name people ended up on picking yet, but this is the village. The 100-person village that seems to work right now, until the dev patches it out. Anyway, apologies for the rant again. I hope you enjoyed and good luck.